We will begin the press conference by Foreign Minister Hayashi. The floor is yours, Minister. Russia's aggression against Ukraine clearly infringes upon Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, constitutes a serious violation of international law prohibiting the use of force, and shakes the foundation of international order, which does not recognize unilateral attempts to change status quo by force and is utterly unacceptable. Japan condemns such acts in the strongest possible terms. Under such circumstances over Ukraine, Japan has decided to take additional measures, including the freezing of assets of citizens of the Russian Federation, such as those affiliated with the State Duma and oligarchs. And today, the necessary cabinet agreement has been secured. Japan will continue to work with the G7 and the international community to improve the circumstances. Thank you. That's it from me.
それではご質問のある方。
If you have a question, please raise your hand, and if you're designated, please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation, and ask a question. Nobita-san from Asahi Shimbun. Nobita from Asahi Shimbun. Question about Ukraine. The Chinese side, responding to Russia's requests, military and economic assistance may be provided, according to some reports. What's your response, Minister? And the U.S. This kind of information to NATO members as well as Asian allies. There is information that the U.S. has conveyed that information to those countries. Have you received that information from the U.S.? As you pointed out, China, providing military assistance and economic assistance to Russia, they are showing a positive stance to such a request, according to some reports. Yes, I know such reporting. I would like to refrain from making comments on such reports, but in any case, Russian aggression on Ukraine infringes upon sovereignty and territorial integrity, and this is a clear violation of international law prohibiting use of force, and this is something that shakes the foundation of the international order, clear violation of international law. We strongly condemn this act, and Ukraine's aggression by Russia into Ukraine. It is important that the international community shows a firm stance, and we would like to coordinate with G7 and US and other countries to ask China to take responsible action. Next question, please.
Uchiba of Sankei newspaper. I have a related question. China, or it could be other countries than China, but there are countries that support Russia economically and militarily, and if that becomes clear, have you any views to impose sanctions against those countries, including China? On China, there was a question and I responded to that question. Japan has imposed sanctions against Russia and against Russia's aggression. We are clearly aligned in taking actions with the international community, and already sanctions have been imposed. On other measures, those are hypothetical points, and I will not respond to hypothetical questions. Next question.
Next question, please. Rukawa-san. The Japanese government, in order for resolution of the Ukraine crisis, the Japanese government has made a declaration. Your Turkish counterpart was successful in gathering foreign ministers of Ukraine and Russia, but both sides were able to take seats in the table, but the difficulties of diplomacy and many things were discussed. Now, towards the weekend, there was an announcement that you intend to visit Turkey. From that visit, what do you expect as an outcome, specifically to your Turkish counterpart? What kind of diplomacy do you intend to develop? My visit overseas, this is now being considered. And as you have asked, Turkey is a geopolitical linchpin, and it's a traditional friendly country to Japan, and it does have influence in the regional situation. So they are a strategic partner. It is indeed a very important country for us. And as you pointed out, in relation to the Ukraine situation, on the 10th, Turkey mediated a foreign ministers' conference between Russia and Ukraine. So they are taking on that role, which I give credit to. Next question, please. Azuhari-san.
News Army Japan. My question is related to my colleague question. What is the significance and goals of your visiting UAE, probably next week, and at this time? And is it possible to expand your trip into other countries such as Saudi Arabia, because Japan seems to be trying to expand the oil imports? Thank you.
この先ほど申し上げた通り、私の外国出張については、
As I said, we're still studying the possibility of my trip overseas. You specifically mentioned UAE in your question. UAE supplies approximately 30% of crude imported into Japan, and therefore, as a strategic partner of Japan, UAE is an important nation. Further, in relation to the current circumstances of Ukraine, UAE is a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, and therefore they are playing a very important role.
Next question. Hiroshi-san from Chugoku newspaper. My name is Higuchi from Chugoku Shimbun. In August, the NPT Review Conference is to be held. That's been decided. And given the current Ukraine situation, Russia continues to intimidate countries with nuclear weapons. So as the country that suffered atomic bombings, how is Japan to play a role towards this meeting? Can you give us your views? Now, NPT review meeting is to be held from the 1st of August to the 26th of August at the UN headquarters in New York. So this was decided upon consensus. NPT is the foundation of international nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, as you pointed out, with reference to the Ukraine situation. Because we are in this situation, we need to maintain and strengthen the NPT regime that is needed more than ever before. And as the only country that suffered atomic bombings, we would like to work very hard so that a meaningful outcome can be produced from this conference. Next question, please.
Yomiuri newspaper, Abe-san. Abe of Yomiuri. From Ukraine to Japan, there are people who want to evacuate, and I have a question on displaced persons and receiving those people. Each ministry will take measures, but what's the position of MOFA, and what is the significance of accepting them? The government of Japan stands with the people of Ukraine who are doing their utmost in taking actions to defend their sovereignty, territory, as well as their homeland and families. From such perspective, we decided on $100 million of emergency humanitarian assistance. And in order to present and demonstrate further solidarity with Ukraine, we are proceeding with measures to accept people who have evacuated from Ukraine to third countries. Now, I mentioned the evacuees from Ukraine, and Cabinet Secretariat is serving as the central control, and Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Foreign Affairs are working together in studying the size of the operations and what specific assistance we provide to the displaced persons. So all of government effort and study is underway. The Japanese government will continue to work together with the international community, with the G7, in order to provide assistance that serves the interests of the Ukraine people. Next question, Kyodo Press.
Maeda from Kyodo Press. Now, MFN status revocation, as was included in G7 summit statement. Within the party, there is voices saying that we should accelerate this. And would there be a need to revise laws to do this? Now, according to WTO agreement, MFN status, it's not just covering tariffs, but it also includes export and import rules and procedures. Various measures will be covered. And Japan has been working closely with G7 and the international community closely, and we have been putting into place severe measures, including export restrictions. And as for the measures to be taken going forward, based on the situation, we want to coordinate with the international community, including G7 going forward.
Higuchi-san, Chugoku newspaper. I have a question related to NPT. Sorry for going back to the previous topic, but are there plans for you to actually participate in the NPT Review Conference and contribute to the situation? And Russia is engaged in intimidation, hinting the use of nuclear weapons, which shakes the foundation of the NPT regime. And what's your thoughts on such action by Russia? Thank you very much. Now, decision has been made for the review conference of the NPT to take place in August, and the representative of the Japanese government is still under study and will be decided at the appropriate timing. Aggression by Russia against Ukraine is unilateral attempt to change the status quo and shakes the international order. It constitutes a stark violation of international law, and we condemn it with the strongest possible terms. And Russia decided on elevating the readiness of its nuclear deterrence units, which may lead to further destabilization of the situation. It's very dangerous. As the only country that have suffered from atomic bomb, we deny the use and the intimidation by nuclear weapons. We strongly assert such position. At any rate, NPT review meeting is an important and valuable opportunity as we strive for a world without nuclear weapons. We truly will be making efforts to obtain meaningful results.
Last question, Asahi Shimbun. My name is Nobita from Asahi Shimbun. UN Security Council reform. Prime Minister Kishida talks about rebuilding the international order framework, and Security Council reform is aimed at. And as Russia has the veto right, UN Security Council may not be functioning properly. So, Minister Hayashi, what do you think are the problems at the UN Security Council, and specifically to reform it? What are the things that need to be reformed? Can I have your thoughts, please? For peace and safety of the international community, the permanent members of Security Council have great responsibility, and their outrageous acts by Russians show the need for a new framework for international order. For UN Security Council reform, Japan has for many years been appealing the need for the reform, and we have been very active. There are very complex interests intertwined in this UN Security Council reform. It's not going to be simple, but under the Kishida administration, we want to work with many countries, and including Japan becoming a permanent member, we will do our utmost to reform the Security Council. That concludes the conference. Thank you very much.